What's up guys, my name's Liam, and today we have an absolute banger on our hands, a mouse that has completely taken me by surprise, and that is the Darmoshark M3. This mouse has been performing exceptionally well for me in my gameplay, but is this going to be the perfect gaming mouse for you? Let's check it out. Alright guys, and here we have the Darmoshark M3, and I want to let you guys know really quickly that MetKeys sent this out to me, so MetKeys, thank you very much for that. With that being said, you guys know I go really in depth. I tested this mouse out extensively, and I'm always going to give you guys my honest opinions. And upon opening the box, in the top here, included, it does come with a quick start guide. It does also come with an extra set of PTFE feet, which I absolutely love. It's got the dot skates, it's got the original size skates, it's got an additional sensor ring, and then inside looks like we got a sticker and just some extra documentation. And right now the pricing of this mouse is coming in at an incredible value at $49.99. Also in the box, here we got the mouse, and this one came in this really cool looking khaki colorway. I do really enjoy this, and I think it's awesome to have a different colorway that stands out from everything else that sits on my desk currently. And then also included in the box, this mouse does come with a dongle adapter, and it also comes with a cable, and this cable is a USB-C connection. So jumping into the mouse, on the bottom of the mouse right here, as you can see, this is where the dongle for the mouse is actually stored, and you could just simply pop that out and you're good to go. And when it comes to the overall specs of this mouse is featuring a 3395 sensor. It also is sporting KEL 8.0 switches, and let's go ahead and drop it on the scale to see what it's weighing in at. So it looks like my copy is coming in at approximately 57.7 grams. So when it comes to the overall performance and build quality of this mouse, everything this mouse comes with, how it has performed in game, honestly, everything has held up perfectly for me. And this mouse has just absolutely taken me by surprise. As a lot of people may already know, it is very similar to the Finalmouse Air 58 shape. And I do want to say that even though this mouse is on the larger size, I have been loving the shape. The one thing I have noticed about this mouse is the top shell. It does feel a little bit flexible. However, I never had any issues with it flexing or not performing for me properly during my gameplay. If you do squeeze around on the shell, it does have some play to it. And if you were to squeeze really hard, you can actually activate both of the side buttons on the shell. But this is only something that I noticed just when I was just squeezing as hard as I can, holding it with both my hands. You can do it if you're squeezing really hard with one hand, but I never once had an issue in game where it ever became a problem for me or hindered my experience or gameplay. And then coming over to the clicks on mouse button 1 and 2, these buttons are really solid. There's very minimal play left to right. When it comes to the pre-travel, there is a slight bit of pre-travel, but I don't notice it being too much of an issue. It really only is apparent if you're pushing on the front of the switch. I kind of hold the mouse further back like this, especially if this being a bigger shape. And I can say that when I do have my fingers near the back of the mouse, as you can look there, there's literally almost no pre-travel at all. So when I was using this mouse in game, the KEL 8.0 switches and the click implementation on my copy of this mouse, I was truly blown away at the price point this is coming in at. I think on my copy, they feel great. When it comes to the scroll wheel, I love the actuation on it. The steps are nice and defined. It's very smooth. I don't feel like it's too slow. I don't feel like it's too fast. The button on it feels perfect. It feels nice and snappy. It's easy to spam. It's lightweight. It's not too heavy or anything like that. And then when it comes to the side buttons on this mouse, the side buttons do have a little bit of pre-travel, but nothing major. After you actually activate the switch, they do push in quite a bit, but nothing that I really noticed in gameplay. The side buttons on this mouse, they do sit a little bit further forward. I never really had any issues or noticed any problems when I was using them. And then when it comes to the bottom of the mouse here, as you can see, it has a very similar design on the skates to the Finalmouse skates. Now, unfortunately, since I don't have a copy of the Air 58, I don't know if this is the exact same size skates of the Air 58. However, what I can tell you is on the Starlight-12, the medium, I mean the medium and the small on the Starlights both use the same size skates. But as you guys can see here, the skates on the Darmo mouse are a little bit bigger than on the Starlight series skates. And another thing I wanted to bring up about this mouse is the sensor placement on the mouse. It does look like it sits a little bit lower. It doesn't exactly sit at the middle of the mouse. And normally, personally, I do prefer a center placed sensor or a little bit higher towards the top. However, with the sensor placement on this mouse, I honestly didn't notice too many issues. It felt great. Perhaps it's because this mouse is a little bit bigger. Like I said, I gripped it kind of more from the back like this when I was using my hybrid fingertip to claw grip on the mouse. But overall, it performed great and I didn't notice any issues at all with the lower sensor placement. One thing I did want to note is on the bottom of this mouse, it's all just one color. And in low light situations, when I first got this mouse, I was struggling to read what the buttons say on here. You know, not really a big deal at all. All I had to do is just figure it out once. After that, I just memorized everything and it was really easy to use. However, over here on this side of the mouse, we do have the DPI button. In the middle of the mouse, we have the power button. When the power button's in the middle, it's off. If you were to push the button over here to the left side when you have the mouse upside down, this is what enables the Bluetooth mode. And personally, I never recommend using the Bluetooth mode, especially when gaming. It does give you higher latency and the mouse doesn't perform at its absolute maximum potential. And then obviously, if you were to switch the button all the way over to the right side when you have the mouse facing upside down, this is what enables the 2.4 gigahertz wireless dongle mode. And then the button on the right side of the mouse over here, when you have it flipped upside down, this is going to be the button that controls the polling rate. And I do want to give you guys a really quick heads up about this mouse. The performance of this mouse out of the box is not very good. You do have to tweak it to get it performing the way that I feel like you get the maximum value out of it. And we're gonna go over all that in a little bit, but when I did first get this mouse out of the box, it did feel a little underwhelming. One of the reasons being is because my mouse came out of the box at a 500 hertz polling rate. So just something you wanna keep in mind, you're absolutely gonna wanna switch it over to the 1000 hertz polling rate. And we'll get into doing that and fine tuning this mouse in just a little bit. So really quick, let's go ahead and drop a sound test on the buttons on this mouse so you guys can see what it sounds like. And then next up, when it comes to the performance of this mouse, I feel like the skates perform well on this mouse. I feel like this mouse sits nice and flat and stable, and the skates had a pretty good glide overall. And as I'd mentioned to you guys, you do need to tune this mouse to get it operating at its maximum potential. So let's go ahead and jump into that. So the first thing you're going to want to do is you're going to want to go to the Darmoshark website. And I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to put a link for that down in the description below. Now keep in mind, this website is in Chinese. However, using Google Chrome, it should give you an option up in the top right corner whether or not you want to translate this website to English to make it easier for you to browse around on. And as you're on the website, you just simply want to scroll down all the way to the bottom of the page, and this is where you'll find a link to go and download the drivers. And as you can see, after you click through the link, you just want to go down to the mice section and you want to find the M3. After you click on the M3, you just simply come down here, you click this link right here and it downloads. I was a little concerned at first that this software was going to be all in Chinese and I wasn't going to be able to read it. However, when you do install this on your computer, all the software is in English. All right, and the first thing that I did when I opened up the software is I came over to this tab, and this section allows you to adjust your DPI. And this is where you will want to confirm that you're at the 1000 hertz polling rate. And then you can leave the DPI options on here if you want. Me personally, I only use one DPI, so I just usually enable one DPI mode, set it at my DPI, and there is a button down here that you need to press to confirm your selection. So if you're switching your DPI around, it isn't going to change it in real time on the mouse until after you select this confirm button. Once I was done setting up my DPI and polling rate options, I came down here to the settings tab. As you can see here, this first tab for the settings box allows you to switch whether you want to have a low or a high liftoff distance. You can set this to whatever you want. And then down here under the sensor performance, my mouse actually came with ripple control enabled. So just go ahead and I clicked on that. I do recommend disabling this option, and I do recommend leaving motion sync on. For the scroll direction, I just left this at forward. And down below this is the esports mode that comes at default in the closed option. I haven't been able to officially confirm what the esports mode does. However, I do recommend leaving it in the open position. Now, though I've not been able to confirm it, what I do believe this option does is I do believe that this uses up a little bit more power to give you the best performance and to maximize the potential of the 3395 sensor. So if I am correct, like I said, if you want to get the most performance out of this mouse, that's why I would recommend leaving it on. I was A/B in testing them, and I did like using the open option more. After switching the esports mode to open, I went and I dropped the debounce time as low as I could. And then over here on the right side, I have seen people recommend to enable the increased pointer accuracy. However, personally, I would recommend disabling that, as that's mouse acceleration. For me personally, I don't like mouse acceleration at all. It gives you a really weird feeling with the mouse. I like just a straight, pure input from the mouse. And that wraps things up for my recommended settings to get this mouse to perform at its absolute best. And I do want to say to you guys that when I did tweak this mouse and I got in game, I truly was blown away with how incredible that this mouse actually feels. You know, I can truly say that the sensor performance on this mouse, everything about it, it was just spot on for me in gameplay. In fact, every time I would jump into a game, whether it would be the day before or the day after, this wasn't just all in one sitting. Honestly, this mouse has just taken me by surprise time and time again. I feel super confident in hitting my shots with this mouse. The shape, the weight, everything about the way this performs, the sensor performance on it, I just feel like is flawless and spot on, and it truly has blown my mind at the price point that it's coming in at. So when it comes to the overall shape of this mouse, as you can see here I have it sitting next to the Starlight 12. This is the medium size. And overall, the shape of these mice are very comparable, but as you can clearly see here, the Darmoshark is a bit larger than the medium-sized Starlight 12 series. And when it comes to the overall shape of these two mice, they are pretty much identical. However, as you can see, all the portions here, the Darmoshark, the mid hump just sticks upon it just a little bit higher. Overall, it's a longer mouse and it feels a bit wider as well. The way that the Darmoshark sits, it just sits a little bit higher in the front of the mouse. It is a little bit higher than the Starlight 12 in the medium. And I would say one of the noticeable differences for me is the back of the mouse just feels a little bit wider, whereas the Finalmouse Starlight feels a little bit more flat. When it comes to the shape of these mice, I've said before that the Finalmouse Starlight series are some of my all-time favorite mouse shapes. And when it comes to the overall shape of the Darmoshark M3, I feel like the shape is just spot on. I feel like it nails it. It feels comfortable. So if you're familiar with the Air 58 or the Starlight series, then you're pretty much going to know what you're going to be getting with the shape of this mouse. Alright, and next up, I'll be comparing it to the Razer Viper V2 Pro. When it comes to the shape of these two mice, these are honestly very similar to one another. Both of these mice feel like they're about equally as long as one another, and when it comes to the width of these mice, they honestly feel very similar with the width. The one major difference I notice when comparing the Darmoshark to the Viper V2 Pro is that the middle hump on the Darmoshark, overall, this mouse sits up quite a bit higher than the Viper V2 Pro, and it does give you a bit more support with the hump. So overall, the Viper V2 Pro is a much flatter feeling mouse in the hands, but overall, the size of these mice, they're very similar and they're very comparable to one another. So if you've used a Razer Viper and you like the shape of it, but you just wish that it had a little bit of a higher hump, a little bit more support, it didn't feel as flat as the Razer Viper, then I would definitely feel like you would love the shape of the Darmo M3. All right, then last but not least, a mouse that I wanted to bring up here is going to be the glorious Model O Pro. The interesting thing for me personally is the first thing that popped into my mind when I did pull the Darmoshark M3 out of the box is how similar, in my opinion, that it felt to the Model O Pro. When it comes to both of these mice, they're just a straight injection plastic mold. I don't believe that there's any type of coating on it. They just feel pretty plasticky. There is a slight texture along these mice, and I haven't had any problems with them slipping in my hands or anything like that. But overall, the feeling of these two mice are very similar. The one difference I would say that stands out between these two mice is that overall, the Darmoshark M3, it feels just a little bit of a softer of a plastic, whereas the Model O Pro feels like it's a little bit of a harder and perhaps a thicker type of a plastic. I've held the Model O Pro as being a great feeling mice and being a good recommendation for me, and I feel like the Darmoshark M3 just kind of takes things a step further with offering a 3395 sensor on here. And like I told you guys earlier, the implementation on it is just absolutely incredible. And when it comes to the shape of these two mice, they're honestly very similar. I feel like the hump is pretty much about the same on both of them. It's possibly just a little bit higher on the Darmoshark M3, but one of the biggest differences I notice about using these, I would say, would be the difference in the width of these mice. Overall, the Darmoshark M3 just feels like it's slightly a bit bigger, it's a little bit taller, and it does feel a bit wider than the Model O Pro. And one thing that I found very interesting here on these two mice, if you look at them on top of one another, is how they pretty much have the exact same side buttons on the mice. As you can see, the Model O Pros are just a little bit smaller than the Darmoshark's M3, but they pretty much have the exact same placement, and the Darmosharks are a little bit thicker. And as I'd mentioned, I've recommended the Model O Pro, that I actually do really like this mouse a lot. These are very similar to one another. The fact that the Darmoshark comes in at half the price is what truly makes this mouse stand out and just feel like an absolute steal to me. Alright guys, so that wraps things up for the Darmoshark M3. This mouse comes with extra skates, comes with the cable, comes with the dongle holder, performs incredibly for me in my gameplay. I have no issues, no hiccups. Everything about it just felt spot on to me. I'm just blown away at $49.99. I'm going to have to say that this mouse is going to go in its rightfully deserved spot of being categorized as an S tier mouse for me. I feel like a lot of people have slept on this mouse, and I'll be completely honest with you, I kind of did as well. There's so many companies out there now and so many offerings coming out, and I want to say that I truly regret not picking up this mouse earlier. And what's even crazier about Darmoshark is they have already announced that they're coming out with a mini version of this mouse, as well as a 4K version of this mouse, and hopefully I'm pretty sure it'll be the same thing for the mini as well. And I do want to say again, after getting this mouse, if you do pick it up, make sure that you go and configure it properly in the software. After my experience with using this mouse, honestly, this mouse is going to stay on my desktop. I'm going to play around with it some more. This mouse has absolutely put Darmoshark on my radar. I would be interested to see if they can offer this mouse in other offerings, like maybe a 300 milliamp hour battery or something like that. See if it drops the weight just a little bit more, because overall the balance, the performance, the weight of this mouse right now, especially at the price point, this is definitely a top contender out there. And the fact that this mouse comes in at $49.99, I'm gonna have to say that without a doubt, this mouse is gonna come in as my number one, my favorite mouse under $50. All right guys, so if you have any more questions or you feel like there's anything that I left out, please let me know down in the comments below. And if you are interested in supporting the channel, I'm going to go ahead and leave links in the description down below where you guys can pick up this mouse. And if you're interested in seeing more videos like this in the future, please subscribe to my channel. Thank you guys so much for watching this video, and I look forward to seeing you guys in the next one.